Oh, look, I didn't see you there. Hi, and welcome to the Northwest Naturalist Notebook. I'm Kirsten, the Northwest Naturalist. So let's jump in. Like many of you, I would consider myself an enthusiastic observer. I was a curious child, full of questions, and sometimes feel like I have even more now that I'm older. But I feel like my approach to observation has shifted and changed a lot over time. That for many years I was so focused on the big pictures, the sweeping vistas and beautiful viewpoints. But after COVID, I started to slow down a little bit and take a little more time really noticing the world more closer to home. Suddenly, I found myself spending hours traveling really short distances that I began to notice more of the plants growing along the path or trying to name the animals and fungi I was seeing. This then led me to the practice of nature journaling and continuing my journey as a naturalist, which began to make me realize that the way I perceived the world had changed. Even though they're often used interchangeably, I began to realize that maybe there was a difference between looking at the world and really seeing it. That I could look at a great blue heron, be able to identify what it was, but then was quickly moving on to the next thing. To me, looking feels more like a passive way of observing the world versus seeing, which feels much more active. Actually taking the time to really notice something and see it with more detail, to look closely at it, structure, and how it interacts with the world around it. Seeing the great blue heron meant beginning to really notice how it moved through the wetlands and was hunting for food or interacting with other birds. It meant beginning to notice the slight differences in color from one bird to the other, or even how their plumage changed throughout the year. When you take the time to start seeing the world around you, you begin to notice how much more there is. Last autumn, when I was going on walks around my neighborhood, I suddenly began to realize that there were dozens of different fungi growing around me. I obviously wanted to start to know what they were called and what set them apart from one another, even if I'm nowhere near confident enough to be able to eat or forage for them yet. Or beginning to notice the incredible detail in mosses and liverworts that grow on the trees. It's almost like being in a tiny forest of its own, with all of the bugs who make their homes there. And I remember being so excited the first time I got to see a tardigrade under a microscope sampled from one of those mosses. But there is a little bit of a downside. The more time we spend really seeing the world, we also begin to notice a lot more about how we as humans interact with these spaces and those that make their homes within them. You begin to see things like coffee cups discarded in a pond, or cigarette butts left in the bark chips, or evidence that people and their pets have maybe been entering areas that they shouldn't. And along the way, you can oftentimes begin to see hope and find it in the people who pick up the trash or help, clean up or steward a specific area. Or you might even get a chance to see your neighbor a little bit differently as you discuss baby birds that have been nesting nearby. Moving from looking to really seeing the world around us takes time to practice. And so this week's challenge for the Northwest Naturalist Notebook is to spend some time really seeing something in your neighborhood. Go and find a plant or a tree that maybe you've passed by before. And I want you to spend 5 minutes really looking at it more closely. Notice things like how the light hits it or how it moves in the breeze. How is it interacting with the space around you? Is that space natural, or does it have some human influenced elements at play as well? How are other animals interacting, or even other humans? And if you're a nature journaler, I encourage you to bring your journal with you into the field and record a few notes as you do this practice. They could be pictures or include words or numbers as well. Until next time, I'm Kirsten, the Northwest Naturalist, wishing you happy exploring.